we're good to
Yes.
go in 1 minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Have we gone live?
Yeah, just 1 minute because we are putting the streaming on. So 1 minute, you go live. Yeah.
Okay.
Diksha, you're mute.
Yeah, Anju just said happens all the time. Thank you. So, very good afternoon, everyone, to our wonderful panel and all those who've joined us live now on Zoom and other social media platforms. This is Diksha Tiwari, and I once again welcome you to another interesting sports webinar organized by Tata Group, where sports is a way of life. So, coming to our webinar today, every crisis offers an opportunity to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Pandemic too has presented new challenges to the global sports community. For the huge athletic community, it has set new goals. Summer Olympics were pushed to 2021. World Athletics Championship, as a result, would be held in 2022. Not just these mega events, we have to look far ahead as far as athletics is concerned. The entire gamut of hosting such events as health, safety, travel will have their dynamics redefined. We have seen how soccer matches are being held, the giant eco bubble in which Indian Premier League cricket is underway. That apart, the individual athletes and teams, their practices, training, injury management will see a complete change. India, which has presented itself as a world sports powerhouse, will also play its part and keep reinventing itself. Today, we will discuss the future at this webinar, athletics in the next decade, the success, challenge, and the road ahead. And we have with us some of the best international athletes, sports administrators from global agencies and government with us as panelists. We'll find out from them how the world bodies and administrators are gearing up to such challenges and how athletes cope up with the task ahead. So let me take this pleasure to introduce our panelists. We have with us Mr. Vishal Kumar Dev, Commissioner cum Secretary, Sports and Tourism, Government of Odisha. Graduated in the year 1990 with a degree in computer science and engineering from IIT BHU and then studied management at IIM Lucknow. He worked for about 3 years in the corporate sector before joining the IIS in 1996. Since the time, Mr. Dev has taken the helm of sports in Odisha as the Commissioner cum Secretary, Sports and Youth Services Department. The state has hosted several international sporting events and earned global accolades, some of which include the Asian Athletics Championship 2017, Hockey World Cup 2018, FIH Men's Series Final 2019, the Commonwealth Table Tennis Championship 2019, FIH Hockey Pro League 2020, and the very recent Khelo India University Games. Along with sports, he's also been entrusted with the additional charge of the Tourism Department, Government of Orissa. And yes, he's also pioneered the concept of sports tourism. Under his leadership, the sports ecosystem in Odisha has been strengthened holistically to make sports inclusive and accessible to everyone. In fact, I would just like to add that, the terms that we associate with an athlete, speed, agility, or power, that's something that we also associate with Mr. Vishal Dev and his team. And that's probably the reason in a record time of 3 months, Asian Athletic Championship could be held in Odisha in 2017. So a very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, we have with us, moving on, Mr. Jeff Gardner, Vice President, World Athletics. Mr. Gardner completed his Master's in Sports Organization Management from the University of Louvain. He was the Chief Minister of the Government of Norfolk Island from 2001 to 2006. After that, he became the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Norfolk Island. A lot of achievement, World Athletics Vice President 2019 till present, of course. World Athletics Council member from 2011 to 19. World Athletics Russian Task Force 2016 till now. World Athletics Nationality Review Panel from 2018 till present, IAF Development Commission 2011 to 15, Deputy Chair 2015 to 19, IAF Audit and Finance Commission, Deputy Chair, also a part of the IAF Working Group Governance and Integrity Reform. There are also different other athletics administration experience, Oceania Athletics Association Council member, president as well from 2007 till 2019, member federation, executive board member from 1982 till now, General Secretary from 1992 to 95 and 2004 till now, National Technical Office official as well, and achievements, of course, Centenary Medal, Services to Government Australia 2001, Merit Award, Oceania Athletics Association 2010, IAF Centenary Medallion 2012, IAF Veteran Pin 2013, and Order of Australia 2015. So a very warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you for being a part of this panel.
Thank you.
We have with us Mr. Adil Sumariwala, Track and Field Olympian, President, Athletics Federation of India. He's an Indian Parsi athlete and entrepreneur, popular for representing India at the 1980 Moscow Olympics. He competed as a 100-meter runner in several international competitions and also at the Olympics. Currently, he's the president of the Athletics Federation of India, was also elected as one of the members of council of IAF at its 50th Congress, thus becoming the first Indian to do so. He has been an athlete since his school days, had set the men's 200-meter inter-college record at a mere 22.2 seconds and held it for 35 years until recently, of course, when Gaurang Amre broke the record, clocking it at 21.7 seconds. He's won the national title in 100-meter sprint 11 times, represented India at the 1980 Summer Olympics as a 100-meter sprinter, in which he stood 7th in round 1. He's also been the chef de mission for the Indian contingent for the 2014 Asian Games in Korea. Apart from athletics, he's been a part of many media businesses and corporations, started his professional career with Tata Engineering and Locomotive and worked there for 15 years in various domains, after which he was appointed as a founding CEO of the Asian Age in 1994. He has since worked with many other corporations, notably Midday Multimedia and Clear Channel. He's also been on board of Next Media Works and SC Transtaria Limited. He's also the co-founder of Interspace Communication. We are really, really privileged to have you with us today. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Sumariwala. Moving on, our next panelist, Mrs. Anju Bobby George, Asian Games gold medalist, India's first and only world champion at IAF World Athletics Final, is India's first and only world champion at athletics, IAF World Athletics Final. She made history when she won the bronze medal in long jump at the 2003 World Championship in Athletics in Paris. With this achievement, she became the first Indian athlete ever to win a medal in a World Championship in athletics jumping 6.70 meter. She went on to win the gold medal at the IAAF World Athletics Final in 2005, a performance she considers her best. She was upgraded to the gold status from silver in the 2005 World Athletics Final following disqualification of the other athlete. She was also awarded the Arjuna Award in 2002, got the 5th position with personal best score of 6.83 at the 2004 Athens Olympic. Of course, a lot of accomplishments to her credit: World Championship, bronze medal, 2003 Paris, World Athletics Final, gold medal, 2005 Monte Carlo, Commonwealth Games, bronze, Manchester, 2002, Asian Games, again, gold and silver, Asian Championships, gold medal 2005, silver medal in 2007, and South Asian Games, gold medal again in 2006, Colombo. So a very warm welcome to you, Mrs. Anju Bobby George.
Thank you.
We also have with us Olympian Senior Coach, Athletics of Sports Department, Tata Steel, Mr. Anand Singh. A very warm welcome to you. First Indian who ran below 21 seconds after Milkha Singh, participated in the 2000 Sydney Olympics, Shiv Chhatrapati Awardee, GM Award for Excellency in Sports by Central Railway, was awarded Best Sportsman of the Year 2000. World Railway Games gold medalist, South Asian Games gold medalist, South Asian Championship silver medalist, First Asian Grand Prix bronze medalist, Assistant Director of Elite Distance Running Program at Program International, Vice President of Palghar Athletics Association, member of Selection Committee of Maharashtra Athletic Association, Chairman of M Marathon Committee, founder of Mission Olympics, till date Federation Cup record of 20.79 seconds, and only Indian coach to work in USA as an assistant coach. So a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Anand. Pleasure to have you here with us today. And we also have with us Mr. James Sillier, head coach and sprints and hurdles coach, Reliance Foundation, Odisha Athletics, HPC, graduated in sport and exercise sciences from the University of Birmingham and completed his MBA from Drake University, has been a high performance athletic coach and co-manager of the British Athletics Performance Center. He has coached professional athletes to achieve the potential in competitions such as the Olympic Games, World Championship, European Championship, and also the Commonwealth Games. He has worked at the National Event Lead Speed for England Athletics, overseeing the talent pathway for England Athletics in sprint, hurdles, and relays, as well as ensuring England Athletics connect with the wider coaching community. I would also like to mention a bit about the Reliance Foundation, Odisha Athletics HPC, which is a collaborative effort of the Department of Sports and Youth Services, Government of Odisha, and the Reliance Foundation, which had signed an MOU in 2018 with an aim to improve the standard of athletics across the state. Currently, 9 athletes train here, with the number expected to reach 16 by the year end. While winning is a long-term goal, the HPC is currently focusing on the journey, the strategy, and the holistic development of a player. It aims to implement a long-term athlete development framework, which will shape up well-rounded athletes pan-India. I, of course, have my wonderful co-host, my moderator, Mr. Rajiv Seth, Project Director, NTHA Orissa. He's been conducting these webinars, taking the initiative to bring together such great luminaries and experts on one platform. Is himself an ex-first-class cricketer from Bengal and Orissa, the first batch trainee and product of MRF Pace Foundation Madras, coached by the legendary Dennis Lilly, played as a professional in English and Scottish Premier Division leagues. Having completed his ACC, ACB Level 3 coaching education program, he's also coached Malaysian national cricket team in 2010, currently an empaneled BCCI match referee, had also a short stint with Jamshedpur FC in the inaugural year, handling the administration and operation, has served in various capacities within the Tata Steel before his current position at Project Director, Naval Tata Hockey Academy, Orissa. And this, of course, is Diksha Tiwari. I'm a journalist, also associated with one of the HPCs of Orissa, XEBS, Ahluwalia Center of Excellence in Sports Management, as their communication and senior manager operations. So this is both of us, and we extend a very warm welcome once again to all our panelists. And I would now like to hand it over to Mr. Rajiv Seth to carry forward the discussion.
Thank you, Diksha. Wonderful introduction and nothing short of best. I think the kind of esteemed panelists we have, the luminaries on the panel, this is the least of introductions we could have. I mean, thank you, first of all, people who have connected with us from different time zones. We have Australia and England to also match with Indian timing. So thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you, James, for connecting from abroad. As Diksha mentioned, I'm not going to spend much time in terms of further ado on the introduction part, but let me just quickly slip into the talk. And what better way to start with Mr. Vishal Dev. Vishal sir, welcome. And once again, just a quick one for you. The path of Odisha becoming the nerve center of Indian sports really started when the state invested in the Hockey India League team Kalinga Lancers. How did the Odisha model, which is being called countrywide, gather pace and did so well that the rest of the states, if I may say, are really gasping for breath? Your view, sir.
Rajiv, you're right. The journey of Odisha, and the aim of becoming one of the finest centers for sports in the country started way back in 2013 when the state took over a team in the Hockey India League and named it Kalinga Lancers. Thereafter, there have been many international and national events which we've held with distinction, including the Asian Athletics Championship, I think followed by the Hockey World Cup, and several other events. But if you look at the challenge, though Hockey World Cup was a much bigger event, I think the Asian Athletics Championship would stand out for the challenge that it posed to us. Uh, uh, all we had was 3 months, and Mr. Sumariwala would recall the stadium was in shambles. And his first visit, he said, "Is it possible to actually do it?" And we said, "Yes, we will do it." So those 3 months were tense, but I think so. We look back at that period with a lot of fondness, a lot of fond memories associated with those 3 months. What we have been able to do is, it's not just about hosting large national and international events, but we've been focused on developing the ecosystem of sports, starting from the grassroots, going up to elite athletes. And alongside, we're looking at doing several things. So we have 16 sports hostels, which we are now upgrading to sports academies. We're thinking of starting day coaching programs, strengthening and making our talent selection process much more scientific. In the meanwhile, the MOUs for high performance centers, which were signed in November 2018, less than 2 years back, I think many have become functional within the Kalinga Stadium and outside, and some more are in the process of becoming functional very shortly. So, all in all, I think it's been a great journey. We've also become the sponsor of the national hockey teams, both men and women, and senior and junior. I think what stands out, if you were to ask me, is I would say that the government of Odisha works more like a corporate. There are, when you talk of a government, there are 3, 4 things which you associate. You think that a government is slow, you think that a government is hierarchy bound, you also think that a government is risk averse. The government of Odisha is none of these things. We are very fast, we are nimble, we are not hierarchy bound at all, and we take risks. And I think the decision to host the Asian Athletics Championship with just 3 months in hand was a classic case.
Indeed,
Mr.
sir.
Sumariwala can perhaps add a bit to that.
Correct, sir. In fact, I'm going to come back to him very shortly, sir. But indeed, sir, what you said is about my next question also. How has the athletics in general, sporting culture in Odisha evolved since then? And what would be the roadmap ahead in terms of infrastructure development or broad basing of the athletic sports in your mind, sir?
Rajiv, a lot has happened since then. We've been able to strengthen our grassroots system. I was talking about converting our sports hostels into sports academies. So we've also taken the decision to engage professional agencies to run these sports hostels and sports academies. We are starting day coaching programs very shortly. And we've done a restructuring of all these 16 sports academies, wherein we've tried to make it more focused. So earlier we had several disciplines at one sports academy, erstwhile sports hostel. Now what we've done is we've said that for each discipline, there would be one sports academy. So the number of coaches that you can deploy at that particular center goes up. We are also looking at engaging sports scientists, physiotherapists, etc. at each of these 16 sports hostels. So the basic idea is that the entire ecosystem from the grassroots to the elite is being mapped with more scientific curriculum of how we teach. We're also getting these sports academies declared as special schools. So children don't really have to attend another school. Classes can be held, within the same sports academy. They don't have to go out, and they therefore have more time to train and coach.
Indeed, sir, and that's a great thing. In fact, that really helps the athlete to plan better, and execution obviously comes with it. Just very quickly, bouncing this off to Mr. Sumariwala. Adil sir, any views on the same question of the athletics and in general sporting culture in Odisha?
Orissa has always had a good sporting background. It's got a lot of talent. But what has happened in the last few years is unprecedented in this country. As Mr. Vishal Dev said, they work like a corporate is absolutely true. And I was shocked and amazed. When I first came there was no track. where we have the training track or the warm-up track was a field. The stadium, there were no chairs. Everything was in shambles. The roof was in shambles. And actually, it was the Secretary Sports who was a very senior IAS officer of the Orissa cadre, said, we can do it in Orissa. So I went to Orissa. And when the first time we went for a walk with Mr. Vishal Dev, and I remember Mr. Pradhan, who was the PWD secretary, and we walked around the place and I said, but this is broken. This is all be done. This will be done. This will be done. And I said, what are they talking about? This is government. What will be done? And he said, don't worry. So I called up our sports secretary in Delhi, Mr. Injeti Shiaz. He said, it's all be done, but what will be done? He said, don't worry. If they told you it will be done, it will be done. You don't worry. I said, okay. So I went there a week later. And the next week when I was shocked, the amount of work that was done. We had no lights. We had to get those lights. We had to import those bulbs from Italy. There was no track. We had to get that material from abroad. I mean, it was unbelievable what we achieved. And it was the whole government machinery absolutely worked like a well-oiled machine. And you never heard anybody cribbing. You would never think that the government officers would work 24 hours a day. We thought only we worked 24 hours a day in the sports arena. They were working more than we were working. They were on the ground before we were on the ground. We would leave the ground in the night at midnight. They would still be on the ground. Next day morning when we came, they would still be there. It's unbelievable. And it's actually a case study for a Harvard Business School or wherever. But it's an absolute case study to be documented and kept.
Superb. I think the testimony to this, what you have just mentioned, Adil sir, is in my next question, which is coming up for Vishal sir only. Sir, you are dubbed as a constructor of Odisha sports in terms of infrastructure and overall projects. You have a reputation of finishing the task in rapid time, as mentioned by Adil sir, also with modest budgets. What do you have to say about this and the moniker you have so deservedly received? And I am privy to this, I can tell you, having worked with Vishal sir in the last 2 years. Sir, it's all yours.
Rajiv, flattering as it is, but I think that moniker can only be used for Honorable Chief Minister because it's his vision, that we are executing, and it's his dream that we share. So we basically soldiers who are working to make sure that his vision and his dream comes true. But having said that, I must also say that I've been blessed with an outstanding team. I think anybody is just as good as the team that he has, and so in my case, I've been blessed. I have a brilliant team working with me, led by an extremely able deputy, my director Vinil Krishna, and of course, the whole team is very excited, very passionate, and committed to sports. And any project that comes to us, we take it up as a challenge, and we make sure that we do it to the best of our abilities. And I think so far, whatever we've done, the best of our abilities has proved to be much better than what would actually have happened. So it's been good luck also.
No, and one more thing I want to add here is to say that in the words of the president of World Athletics who came for the event, he said this was the best meet ever conducted in its history, as well as the facilities that were given to athletes. Every little care was taken of the needs of the athletes. And that was something unprecedented. So we had the previous one in China, the next one in Qatar, but this was by far the best.
Superb. I think that's wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's just not music to ears, but it's something which is well deserved. And I can tell you, sir, that every project I have seen in the last 2 years, I think it's become a habit of people asking for an event to be organized in a short span in Odisha, because probably they know it's going to happen. So it's one of those things. Moving forward, let me invite Mr. Jeff Gardner. Jeff, coming to you, in one of your recent events, you said that the finding new ways of presenting events while engaging with younger fans will play a critical role in the sport's success going ahead. Can you shed some light on this, please?
Yes, Rajiv, absolutely delighted to join you this evening. And maybe if I just put some context around my answer, just so that we're making sure that what I'm saying actually truly reflects the direction that World Athletics is heading in. World Athletics has recently adopted its strategic plan over the next 4-year period. So we're not looking the full decade ahead with the strategic plan, but certainly the first 4 years. And for anybody who's interested, that can be found on the World Athletics website. It is a very interesting document, very ambitious, but a very worthwhile plan for us to proceed with. There will be a World Athletics plan, which will go into even more detail about what I'm going to talk about. And that sits with the council itself to determine. And it will cover a period of 8 to 12 years, so cover the next decade. And that will be approved by the World Athletics Congress. So actually, all of our stakeholders will have a say in the World Athletics plan moving forward. But to your question about engaging, look, our aims are twofold. One, firstly, is to motivate our fans, their friends, families, communities, governments to support healthy lifestyles. Secondly, is to mobilise those fans, inspire them to participate in what we're doing, to watch and obviously to immerse themselves in media platforms and forums that are going to be available, and give them a real feeling of belonging to the events, which is really important, giving them a true connection to the sport. How are we going to achieve this? Well, we have to develop, obviously, the platforms and initiatives that are flexible, are current, in other words, they're up to date, and they engage and they inspire fans. All this is about inspiring people and engaging with them. It is our aim to obviously grow our broadcast reach and engagement by 10% over the immediate period. And how we're going to do that is with closer collaboration with broadcasters in the way they deliver and present events, and through investment in innovation and technology. And I just hark back to Doha in 2019 at the World Championships, where new technology was used in the introduction of athletes and trying to jazz up the way the sport was presented, which really engaged with our fans, not just those in the stadium, but those that were witnessing the event around the world. We aim, obviously, to deliver full stadiums, which is really important, by working more closely with our local organising committees, our broadcasters, and of course the athletes, who are absolutely integral to this going forward. We aim to double our digital following. How are we going to do that? By providing more creative content, developing strong partnerships with our social media platforms across a number of different platforms, freeing up the broadcast content. So in other words, making it more accessible to everybody on the ground, and providing easier access through those platforms to drive traffic. Our aim in doing this is to create a database of 1 million known fans. So that's over the next 4-year period. That work is already happening. 2020 is the development phase for this, because the strategic plan's only been introduced, and the 3 years following will be the implementation phase. What does it mean? It's going to focus on content, needs to be compelling, needs to catch people's attention. It will include more mechanisms of being able to explain the sport to your novice fans right through to your expert fans. In other words, breaking down what the events mean, what the weights are, why the weights are the way they are, to be able to provide a better insight into the athletes. It will also mean that our website will be updated with the Be Active component, which is on the World Athletics site now, which will offer premium lifestyle content, all about generating interest in the sport. It will improve the release of competition information so that it's readily available to your device, whether you're in a stadium or any part of the world, with relative ease. There will also be, obviously, exclusive offers and opportunities. So things like competitions will be made available, discounts from our partners, exclusive content, personal interaction with athletes. In other words, the fans getting to know the athletes more so than just seeing a body on a track or out in the field, is actually interacting with them and finding ways of doing that. Our focus will also be on athlete tracking, so telling the story about athletes to try and generate interest in our fans to follow the life and the development of our athletes more so than has happened to date, and give personal insights into their backgrounds and their training mechanisms and what it means to be an elite athlete. And probably the last bit that we'll focus on as part of that is giving inside track insights. So using CIS information to provide graphics to assist those within the stadium and anywhere around the world in the storytelling and around the individual events and athletes, as I spoke about before. So look, there's a lot happening. The detail is obviously yet to be fleshed out, but certainly we've pinpointed exactly what we need to do to target it and to drive interest in the sport. We bring fans to the sport will grow and develop even more strongly.
Wonderful. I can see a bag full of initiatives planned, and probably is literally seeing a complete transition happening from the current times to the next decade. Wonderful, wonderful to hear from you. In the same breath, Jeff, I would also like to mention here, you were also quoted to be saying that our events have to be short, sharp, and dazzling. So in the new decades and in the post-COVID era, is World Athletics looking at newer formats and tournaments of various athletic disciplines?
Yes, Rajiv, they are. Look, from the outset, I'll say I'm a traditionalist. I love the events that we've always had, whether it's shot put or the hurdles or the distance events and the marathon and the walks. I love them all. I think that they're fantastic events. But in saying that, I'm not averse at all to looking at innovation, how we're going to grab people's attention to make it more relevant to people going forward. I mean, there's plenty of examples of other sports that have done exactly that, and they've generated greater interest, whether it's 2020 cricket or whether it's seven-a-side rugby, or a whole host of different initiatives that have been taken by other sports. And as I said, World Athletics are looking to do that. Have we got it right? Well, we've tried some things. Arguably it's worked for some and hasn't for others. Have the athletes always been in favour of those changes? No, not necessarily. Some have embraced it, others haven't. But look, we're brave enough to give it a go and to see whether we can make a difference. And we just want to take people along for the ride with us in that regard. As I said, some of those initiatives have already been trialled, and there has been a recent announcement just in recent days by World Athletics that has stated that the Olympic and World Championships program will allow for changes to event formats. That doesn't mean there's going to be wholesale change overnight, but what it does indicate is a willingness to maybe look outside the square going forward. But that's going to be an exercise that is going to involve all of our stakeholders. It's not just something that the World Athletics Council, Adil and myself and our colleagues are just going to say overnight, we're going to change things. We do engage as widely as we possibly can when we're making these decisions, and we'll give anything a go.
Indeed, it seems to be an out-of-box thinking, and wonderful, wonderful to hear those plans. Before I go to Anju, I just want to quickly mention something. In fact, I would like to take Adil sir back into the question. Adil sir, in one of your interviews, you have said that we have, in fact, you have been the 11-time national champions athlete. How do you think has Indian athletics evolved since your time to the current era in terms of technique, mindset, and what is the road ahead?
So I think we have evolved quite a bit. You can see from all the records that have been broken. It's also been quite a journey for us, where we started the junior program in the 80s, and then in 2003 we started the inter-district athletic championships. Now we have 2 junior world champions, 1 world record holder, and a world university champion. All these have been part of a junior scheme, not to forget Anju. So there has been consistent development. There aren't records, old records, 30-year-old records which are left anymore. they're all been broken. So there has been tremendous progress in the last few years. I think Commonwealth Games was one time where we really sort of upped our performance significantly. That was for the first time we had 6 medals in the Commonwealth Games, whereas in all the years of Commonwealth Games since independence, we had only 6 medals. At the last Asian Games, out of the 15 gold medals won by India, in all the sport put together, athletics had 9.
Correct.
So there has definitely been progress. Are we happy with it? We can say we are sort of satisfied. We would like to see much more happening, and we believe that much more will happen.
Indeed, these are the changing times, but I think these are good times for Indian athletics unit. And as you rightly mentioned, the athletes have shown results over the last few years. Coming to Anju, a career that helped Indian dream big in athletics. How would you remember your time and the national record of 6.83 you set at the Athens Olympics in 2004 still stands? I guess you would be happier if someone would have broken it by now, like any other great athlete.
Yeah, actually, that records are meant to be broken because otherwise there is no way ahead. So I would have happy if someone did, but still, I believe someone from my academy soon will be doing that, maybe 2024. Actually, back in my days, it was little difficult because things were not easily available, like what is happening today. Today, it's actually we have a lot of synthetic tracks. We have a lot of infrastructure, good infrastructure in international level, and a lot of competitions are happening in India. But during those days, even a spikes was a task for us. We used to do with the same spikes for 2 years, but now people are doing just for one competition, then they'll throw it out. And those spikes cost of a 1 month salary those days. So, but we cannot blame because that was 2000, before 2000, and everyone was struggling those days. But still, I'm really happy that I could manage up to the world stage and I could win a medal from the World Championships and Olympics. Also, I did a decent performance, but unfortunately, I missed the medal. But actually, I can say that the struggles what during our time what we faced, luckily our new gen athletes are not facing that much because under the able guidance of Adil sir and Banot sir, the things are much different now, and things are much easy for athletes. And our junior program, as Adil sir said, it's a wonderful thing, and there are a lot of results coming out from there. We have got 2 world champions and world record holder, and a lot of changes in junior level, and slowly it will come up to the senior level, because senior level is entirely different. It's not like junior, so we are a long way to go to senior level. So I'm really happy the way how our Indian athletics is going forward, and soon I am expecting an Olympics in India. So I think in Orissa or somewhere else it can happen. Yeah, that's it.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Yes.
As you rightly mentioned, Adil sir being there and Dr. Lalit Banot, who have the opportunity to meet a few times. I mean, wonderful people to head this and take you forward. Anju, you very quickly mentioned about your academy. Let me just take on that. You have set up your academy in Bangalore in 2016. What is the vision, and do you think more and more stars athletes should open their academies to promote more and more talent to the national stage?
Yeah, definitely. Our senior athletes, achievers should come forward and support our youngsters, because what we gain through our career, we can transfer it to our youngsters. Because for us, it's very easy because we have seen the world, we have experienced the competitions, and we know what to do and how to do. So for a youngster, it will be very easy, and for them, I think if we say something, they will believe. So in my opinion, a lot of athletes should come forward and support our system, because only the system cannot do anything. There should be a lot of support. And in my academy, from all over India, I selected 13 young women athletes, girl kids. They are from 12 to 16. So now they are training for long jump and triple jump, and our academy infrastructure is yet to come. It's happening now, and the athletes are training in Bangalore side, and a lot of support we are getting from there. So one of our athlete, young Shaili Singh, she is under 16 and she's world number 2 now in 2 years of with 2 years of training. And I'm expecting a lot from our academy in 2024 and 2028. So this is first thing I can say that because I'm an athlete, I am there, and as a coach, Bobby George is there, who was my coach. So these two experience we can club together and make more wonders for our future Indian athletics.
All I can say is wish you all the very best, and I'm sure with people like you behind it, it's sky's the limit. Let me very quickly get Anand into the thing, my colleague from Tata Steel. Anand, you were probably the first man to have run under 21 seconds after the legendary Milkha Singh, and still hold a record of 20.79 seconds in the Federation Cup. From there to now, as a senior athletic coach of Tata Steel, you've also had many other assignments. How do you look back on your journey?
Thank you, Anju. First of all, I would like to thank my coach, Mr. Santosh Varghese, Athletic Federation of India, and my supporter, my mentor, Mr. Adil Sumariwala. He supported me a lot when I want to go to US. He supported me a lot. My journey was not easy, because I come from very small town near Mumbai, Vasai, and from Vasai to Sai Kandavali is almost 40 kilometers, and every day twice I travel. From 96 to 2006, I was part of various competition, international competition and nationals. I win the medals. I was part of the Olympics. I was part of the Asian Games. I was part of the Asian Championship with Anju. Myself and Anju, we started career together in junior Asian Championship from Delhi. Then in 98, I went to US for the training with Wolfpack Sprints Academy, and I was training there under the coach. And then I came back here. Then I started running good here in India. I ran that particular year. I ran 20.80, and that is my that time I break the Milkha Singh record. He ran, I think, 20.8, and I equal that record. After 99, I ran 20.79, and then my journey start. I was training hard, but I didn't change my event, because my coaches, they always telling me, Anand, you should go for 400 meters. But because of maybe that time I'm young, I didn't realize that if I started running 400 meters means I can run good timing, because those athletes are running 200 meters good, they can go for 400 meters. But that time my mentality is I'm not that much strong. And then up to 2004 I was playing. Then I went to the US. I did my strength and conditioning certification from US track and field. I was working with University of Texas El Paso with a great coach who produced 35 Olympics medalists, Bob Kitchen, who coached Sharandi Martin, who coached Obadoli Thompson, more athletes, a lot of athletes. And I learned a lot of things. Then I came back to India. In between that, I just want to do something here, but I could not, because I changed my mind. I changed my something, and I went to the hotel industry. I started my own restaurant near the Bombay, and that's a journey. And then after that, one more time, I back to the track. I want to do something for my country. And then I joined Procam International, and I was working with different schools, different colleges regarding coaching and all. I'm handling Procam, I'm handling marathon, plus I'm handling elite athletes running program. In that, our 2-3 athletes, they were good, and they already win medal in Junior Asian Championship. Now they're in team. That is my journey. But now I'm in Tata. Definitely, I will do best in Tata, because Tata, that they always support the athlete. We have very good infrastructures, very big infrastructures. We have very good support. We have HPC here. Everything is there. we just have picked the talent from different sources of India, and we just take here and look both we want to do best here, because everything is there, and definitely in future you will get good athlete, and we'll definitely support Athletic Federation of India to give the good athlete from Tata, and always Tata giving best athlete. You know that always we have more than 35 Arjuna awardees. There are 2 Dronacharya awardee coaches, and there are a lot of other things. So definitely will help, and that is my journey. Now I'm in Tata.
Indeed, and I mean, I think the biggest challenge you would have is to sort of get that athletic, high performance center, athletic academy back to stream and work well within Tata Steel, which is what is known for. You know, the Bagicha Singhs and the Basant Singhs and the Shatnam Singhs of the world have all come from Tata Steel. So Tatas have that culture and the rich heritage in sports. Let me quickly bring James. James must be a little on the back burner all this while looking for his turn. But James, quickly on to you. You have time and again said that you and your team are working towards developing this athletic HPC into the most innovative high-performance athletic center in Asia. How much of this has been achieved and the road ahead towards making this a reality?
Yeah, thanks, Rajiv, and also thanks to all my sort of esteemed colleagues at the Odisha government for all the support they give us with the HPC. We just couldn't be as innovative as we are without them. I believe we've achieved a significant amount in a relatively short period of time. Circa 12 months really since the inception of the HPC. I think in itself, innovation is absolutely crucial to the development of the HPC and in fact any organization and in terms of a long-term, creating a long-term sustainable model. And I think there's 3 things that we've sort of predominantly focused on when it comes to innovation at the HPC. The first thing is efficiency. So we've looked at traditional models, traditional ways of doing things, and we've looked at how we can make them more efficient, how we can save time, effort, and energy, and spend that time, effort, and energy on perhaps more important things. The second thing is with innovation is doing something new. With athletics, it's not always about doing something new. It's sometimes about doing something old in a new way, or in a better way. So we've looked at where we can do something new. We've looked at existing things and can we do them better. And the third thing is how we gain competitive advantage. In our world, that competitive advantage is ultimately allowing athletes to flourish in our performance environments and allowing athletes to ultimately achieve their genetic potential under our tutelage. We believe very strongly in our HPC that we must put the athlete first, and we have an athlete-centered model. We also focus, of course, on the development of the coaches in the system, and we have a sort of very strong backup from our sports science and medicine team, some of which are external to the HPC, so actually work outside the HPC and consult in. Within the athlete-centered model, we very much look at the human being that sits underneath the athlete or sits behind the athlete. And I think that's really integral to all of our innovative strategies and philosophies that we have. And we always consider when we are doing anything, are we doing this in the best interest of the athlete? Is the athlete happy? Is the athlete fulfilled? Is the athlete happy living here at the HPC? Anand, you were a very successful athlete. I'm sure you ran well when you were happy and fulfilled. And it's that philosophy that we align to. Secondly, we want to develop the athletic qualities of our athletes and the HPC, particularly with our younger athletes that come in. We want to work on key skills like key movement qualities, injury prevention, efficiency, coordination, all these type of qualities that just make the athletes generally better athletic. And then finally, we look at the event. So if they're a 100-meter runner, we look at the key requirements of the event, and specifically the event in international competitions where there's rounds and different days of competition, and how athletes recover from those days, and how we must train the athletes to recover for rounds and to peak at the right time. And I think that those philosophies give us a framework to work within, and they give us a more narrow bandwidth to work within. So we're very targeted and very focused in everything we do. And the final thing that we do is we engage the whole team and we set common goals as a team. And we have very, very strong communication within our team. So we meet every single day to discuss everything that, whether it's the daily training sessions, whether it's a review of the previous sessions. And we also integrate operations in with our performance strategy as well, because we feel that every single thing is linked.
Wonderful. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. You want to say?
I was just going to say, in terms of moving forward,
yeah,
we're sort of launching a very innovative competition program at the HPC, which is an event-specific program. So there'll be a sprints-only evening. There'll be a middle distance-only evening. And the competitions will be irrelevant of age and sex. So it'll be purely on performance. So if you run a certain time, you'll be put in a certain race. If you run another time, you'll be in another race. So it's a way of exploring giving athletes what they want. Athletes want to run fast and they want good competition. And the second thing we're doing is we're building a flagship indoor training facility at the HPC, which will allow us to train in optimal climatic conditions and allow us to train all day, every day. In Odisha, as you guys know, it's extremely hot in the summer. Extremely wet and rainy in the monsoon season, so that can sometimes impact in our training. So this flagship facility will allow us to train all day, every day when we need.
Indeed, and looks to be a very constructive approach, James. And while we talked about the mid segment and the top segment of the pyramid, I'm sure you would be having some thoughts about this grassroots and talent scouting. If you may want to just quickly mention before we move on to the open house.
Absolutely. So it's extremely important that underpinning every performance system is a really good conveyor belt of athletes coming through. Within Reliance Foundation, we've run some big competitions. We ran competitions in 21 cities last year. And the aim of that really was to drive participation and to enthuse athletes about athletics. In the state of Odisha, alongside the government, we are looking to impact positively the whole ecosystem of athletics in the state. And we're looking to really drive predominantly three things. So we're trying to make really upskill coaches in the state, either in schools or in our sports hostels. We're trying to make athletics more convenient for more athletes. So we want to allow athletes to be able to succeed wherever they are in the state. And thirdly, we want to introduce a competition program in the state that allows all athletes at all levels to have relevant level, competitions. So they're exposed to competitions and learning how to compete at a very early age.
Superb. And, good days ahead. So just moving ahead with the kind of momentum we have had on the discussion, I would like to bring upon some points where I think we can have individual opinions and we can have multiple opinions. So generally, top Indian athletes are part of an elite youth setup, not before an age of 12 years. Whereas in Europe, players are already in the high performance centers and advanced academies by the age of 7 to 9 years. Do you think this can be a reason for the difference in quality between India and the world? Jeff, would you like to take that first?
Yeah, I'll have a crack at that one. It's really interesting. Europe, many European countries take a very different approach to those of us in the rest of the world. I can talk about Oceania. There are very few, and in fact, we try to discourage children specialising before they're of a certain age. We don't see that as being conducive to their proper development, full development. We think that children in particular should be given the opportunity to try everything, and eventually, as they progress, as they develop, as they mature and their bodies mature, they will find their niche rather than trying to force them into a box at too earlier an age. Look, we have very successful athletes out of Australia and New Zealand and some out of the Pacific Islands. They haven't been through these schools of development at a very young age, like that to which you're referring to in Europe. and Australia and New Zealand are regularly on the podium at World Championship and Olympic Games. So I think that this part of the world has seen success by doing things differently to how they do them in Europe. But, you know, each to their own, and people work out what is the best system for them. I think in this part of the world, how it's done works brilliantly.
Indeed. Adil sir, any views on that?
No, I second what Jeff is saying, and I think one of the biggest reasons for there are three big reasons why we have not reached world levels. We've reached a certain level, but we've not reached. One of the reasons being that we specialize too early and we burn out too early, and that is one of the reasons. I sit with Jeff as the chair of my development commission, and we are preparing a kids athletics program where we work on different things like motor skills, flexibility, agility, strength, etc. But in an overall way, and not specific to any sport. So as Jeff said, each to his own, and we strongly believe in India that that model doesn't work for us.
Okay. Let me take a athlete, perspective towards it. From obviously everybody is giving his views. Anju, you have a perspective from the current athlete's perspective, not you per se, in terms of dealing with a lot of athletes at your academy and otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, new studies are showing that we cannot specialize before 16 or 17 or 18. But most of the countries are doing that, like China and all. But India actually, even though we are starting at very young age, still our training is not that aggressive. We are slowly we are going up. In my case, even though I started from very young age, at the age of 5, but I was doing almost all the events, and I was a heptathlete. And the coaching what I was getting, it was not like that packed. So luckily, I started my international career after 20. I can say even it's late, but still. So I could reach up to that at that stage. The early burning out is happening still in India, and with our junior programs, we are controlling that. We are educating our coaches. There are a lot of coaching programs are happening now, and we are educating our coaches what to do with our youngsters, what to do with our kids, and how to train them to become a world champion or an Olympic champion. So slowly the system is changing, and there can be a big difference in coming years.
Wonderful. And taking a lead from what you just mentioned, I think I would start with Jeff on this. Since we are talking about what needs to be better going forward, there is a trend that many junior champion athletes who do well and show promise don't make the cut at the senior level. What are the main obstacles that hamper an athlete's progress going forward?
Okay, I haven't got all the answers to that, but I have some views on that. And I think it's a mix, and I'm sure that the rest of the panelists will add to this list. But, one of the controversial things that comes up from time to time is athletes that remain fixed with a single coach for the whole of their career. Now, look, we have to understand there is a special relationship between a coach and an athlete. Often they're seen as a mother or a father role model for an athlete. But there are often coaches that can take an athlete to a certain level, but they don't have the skills or the competency or the capability to take them to the next level, to really turn them into an elite athlete. And sometimes it's really difficult for athletes to separate from a coach. It sometimes can set them back in their training, but others absolutely blossom and they go to the next level. So that's one of the issues. Obviously, life expectations, needing to find a career post-athletics, wanting to build a family, their own family's expectations around the athlete. Those are things that hamper progress. The affordability, obviously, of staying in the sport. Can I afford to stay in this? Is there a future in it for me? What am I going to do in 5 years' time when my career is over? There are all those things that play on athletes' minds. Obviously, the other options from other sports. In this part of the world, some of our top athletes are attracted to higher paying sports such as rugby league or rugby union or netball. So they leave the sport, unfortunately. They've got the speed, the strength and the stamina to be outstanding athletes and probably would go on to world championship or Olympic podium, but they choose to go to another sport just simply because that they can make a living from it. Also, in some of our member federations, particularly smaller federations, the lack of strong development pathways in the federation structure inhibit the ability of a federation to be able to develop their athletes and take them to the next level. Lack of competition opportunities. You know, there are a whole host of things that can impede an athlete's development. You know, for athletes, they need competition. If they're not being given competition, that's going to hold them back. And the support mechanisms. James was talking before about the importance of the team mentality, but there's your coach, your manager, your member federation, the other entourage members, all your medical staff, doctors, physios, psychologists. Without those strong support mechanisms, particularly when you rise to the higher levels, if those are not in place, that can in themselves impede the development of an athlete and not assist them in realising their full potential. But I'm sure the panellists would have plenty of other things to add to that.
Indeed, I think what you said is absolutely true to any context, irrespective of the country we're talking about. I think before I ask Adil sir his views, I would like to take views of Vishal sir, because Odisha seems to be also having a point of view here in terms of having champions at the junior level and thereafter the transition. Vishal sir, any views on that?
Rajiv, I think the point that was mentioned by Jeff, about the whole support system being in place, that is a major differentiator. And, the whole culture of how important sports is. The problem that we face in India is that a whole lot of athletes, once they have a government job in the railways or, some corporation, the motivation levels go down and we see a drastic dip in the performance. So how to overcome that issues, other aspect that we're looking at. We were talking about the culture of sports. Over the years, when I've seen in India, the willingness of parents and the candidates to take sports as a career has, of course, improved. Because earlier there was a lot of reluctance and resistance from within the family to take to sports as a career because of the financial uncertainties, etc. But there are things which have improved on those fronts. But I think the entire sports system and the issue of motivation, the issue of incentives to ensure that they sustain right till their journey to the top, I think that is something which we still have to work on.
Indeed, sir. And with Government of India, the central body making huge plans and aiding their sports people in the capacity which we see off late, I think these are the good moments. Adil sir, your quick views on that?
I think there are a couple of issues. One is by the time they come to grade 10, their parents want to stop them because they have to do their school leaving exam. Because if they don't get 95+%, they will not get into high school. At high school, at 12, standard 12, everybody wants to either be an engineer or a doctor or whatever. And if they don't get 101% with all the extra marks, they will not get admission. So that's one of the reasons. The other, with a population like ours, yes, there is a problem. The second issue is overage. A lot of these kids that we think are the right age, we suddenly had a young kid from Delhi and they said he was the next Usain Bolt of India and he was 4 years overage. So the first time when they told me the Usain Bolt of India, I looked at him, I didn't react. The media said, oh, the president of Athletics Federation doesn't react to this great talent that we have found, the Riksha Pulla's son. Hello, you look at the guy. We sent him for a medical and he's 4 years overage. So, so there are various problems. The third problem is, as I said, it's the coaches. It's the coaches, and as Jeff said, they're not ready to give up. If they see, I may be a very good math teacher at school level, but when I go to college and when I start learning higher math and calculus and whatever, I need another teacher. But that first teacher was good at grassroots level. The next teacher, there are very few who can take you from grassroots right up to elite level. And they don't want to give up. And it's again my fault because I was one of those people who fought to get coaches Dronacharya awards and cash awards. So if the athletes won, now I think I did a wrong thing because the coaches are just and their husbands want to be coaches who are not. I mean, it's different for somebody like Bobby who's a world-class coach. But there are people in our Indian team whose husbands are not even district level athletes or can't coach district level and want to coach Olympic medalists. So we have also a huge amount of socio-economic problems. So it's a very it's not an easy pathway it's very complex, and there are wheels within wheels, and we are slowly trying to clean out, bring them into silos and work on each silo and clean it out, and that's what we're doing slowly. So, for example, coaches education, as Anju attended a lot of it. Actually, Jeff attended a couple of our coaches education programs. We had 800 people, 1,000 people. James lectured at some of them. So we're trying to increase this base of coaches who will not burn out the athletes at a very young age. So there are a huge amount of complex problems.
James, a quick one from you before I move on to the next one, and then we go on to Q&A also, because I think we're paucity of time. James, quick one on this.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that's been said. I think the one thing I would just add to it is it has to come from within the athlete. And I think this is something that has to be developed in the athlete at a younger age. So, it goes along with the model that we align to at the HPC, which is the human side of the athlete, then the event third. Develop the internal qualities that the athlete needs to focus on process rather than outcome, then we're more likely to keep somebody in the system for longer because they're self-motivated. If you look at football and you look at Ronaldo and Messi, they're very, 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 very wealthy people, but they're still intrinsically motivated to be better. And that's something that comes from within them. And whatever rewards you give them, they still want to get better. So it's driven from within. So I think it's a quality we have to develop in our younger athletes, not just the physical qualities, but the qualities of what does it take to be elite, the appreciation of what it takes to be elite. And we filter that down to the athlete. And we look at the whole holistic athlete as a development process.
Indeed. And the mindset plays a very big role. So as the entire 360-degree development of the athlete, which is what paves the way for such kind of thing. There is one thing which all the audience listener would like to know when we are going through the COVID times. How different is the prevailing situation for an international athlete, especially the ones who are working towards the Tokyo Olympics, which is now postponed to obviously 2021. Adil sir, would you like to give a shot first?
I think things are slightly different. Having said that, Europe is open. World records are being created at the Diamond Leagues and other events. Certain parts of the world and where we are, there are problems. But I think overall, as far as India is concerned, we will be in a better place next year than we would have been this year because our team is very, very young. The average age is 20 to 23 years. And they have one more year of training. So in that, and people like Neeraj, who were just recovering from their injuries, would get one more year of training. So I think for India, I think it's fine. It's okay. I don't know about the rest of the world, but Europe is open and great events are taking place in Europe and world records being created.
Jeff, any view from a pan view from top, so far the world goes?
Look, I think it's a very difficult and for some athletes a very confronting situation, the COVID and the inability to be able to compete. and incredibly frustrating for those that have worked all their lives to want to go to an Olympic Games or a World Championship, only to find that, you know, we've delayed the World Championships until 2022. The Olympic Games have been bumped out 12 months. For some of those athletes, it's basically the end of their career, and they won't get that opportunity because of what's happened. And look, I think it's incumbent upon all of us as administrators and member federation representatives to make sure that we look after our athletes, because at the end of the day, they are at the forefront of everything that we do, and they should be at the forefront of our thinking. And look, World Athletics have done their best to try and establish a fund to assist some athletes through this very difficult time, because they've been unable to make a living. But look, at the end of the day, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There will be an Olympic Games at some time. I can't predict exactly when that will be, but hopefully that it's in July next year. There will be World Championships. There will be more opportunities for athletes. And I think that we just have to, it's a bit like the entourage. We have to all move in the one direction and try and be positive and support our athletes going forward as best we can.
Indeed, these are troubled times for all, and I think athletes are no different. But I think the way our athletes are motivating themselves and trying to prepare in their best capacity is something which is well seen world over. India is doing their bit, and I can see camps happening at different places with the bio bubbles and all sorts of precautions taken. That's the real attitude, and that's the real process which one needs to follow. Anju, would you have any perspective from a athlete's point of view, the preparation and what goes into it? You would be talking to many athletes.
Yeah, from an athlete point of view, actually we are preparing for a particular time or for a particular date, and changing competition like Olympics, it's beyond our imagination, and it's happened already. And today the world, actually the athletes are suffering in some part of world. The competition is already started, but a country like India, we are still waiting for a green signal. So and still the situation is same, and still there is some uncertainty about the competitions and the training and everything, and we need a certain training period for before gearing up for a major championship. So from an athlete point of view, it's a difficult time for us, but still we are aiming for future. And India, actually, as Adil sir said, our athletes are very young, and still they have enough time to prepare for Olympics. But uncertainty is still there, and but we are crossing the finger and waiting for good thing to come.
Indeed. In fact, I can tell you in my little capacity, having spoken to one of the top athletes in India, and while they're going through their program in Patiala, I mean, the initial 30-40 days, Adil sir would vouch for it, was not easy for them, because they had a whole lot of restrictions. They had a preparation in mind, and they wanted to execute that, but they had to fulfill other requirements, which is also mandatory requirements. Tough going, but I think that's the real test. And I'm glad that we had this discussion, because I'm sure Diksha would be ready with some question answers in case she has other, because my questions will never end, but I think that the show has to come to an end at some stage. So Diksha, over to you. If you have any question answers there.
When times get tough, the tough
gets going. That's the one, sir. That's the one.
In fact, Rajiv, I'll have to add that the audience has been sending me questions saying that Rajiv ji takes care of everything and asks all the questions to the panelists, and we have nothing to ask every time. He's making the discussion so informative and fruitful. But yes, just a lot of it has already been covered in the discussion. But there was one thing that came from an audience asking about how to popularize athletics, and with so many less spectators today. And he also has an idea about involving more people that could lead to better fitness all over the world, and maybe changing spectators to participants as a revolutionary idea, and he wants to know if he can do that and he can get a copyright for an event like that. So anything from up on that.
Well, he's got a wish list with never ending. Yeah, so good. I mean, anybody, sir.
Jeff is the best person to answer this.
Jeff, you're put on the spot, Jeff.
Yeah, look, I can give you an answer to that. What we're trying to do at World Athletics with our strategy, our strategic plan, and I take it will be embraced in our world plan going forward, is basically to try and get the world moving. So that's to try and generate interest in the sport and get everybody to participate, regardless of your ability, your age, your gender, whatever. Get everybody involved in the sport from basically cradle to grave. And this little island behind me where I live is called Norfolk Island. So it's real. And, the tourism operators that are listening to this should pay heed to this, because this is the greatest little island in the world. But what we do on Norfolk, we're only a very small place, but to try and encourage participation, we use the world age-graded tables. And we have open events, which means we have children from 8 years of age right up to adults of 80 and 90 years of age participating against each other in the same event using the tables, which basically gives them a handicap. But it's really fascinating. It's like running a gift, and everybody's placed at different starting points and run off different times, and given handicaps for throws and different weights. But it means that you don't have to have everybody of the same age group competing. You can have mums and dads and grandparents and grandchildren all competing in the same race or the same event. And it really does generate interest. It's just sometimes a matter of thinking outside of the square to try and get more people involved in what we're trying to do.
Wonderful. Super. Diksha?
I think I'm sure he's definitely, I mean, that's precisely what he was asking also, that can it be something where, across gender, across age groups, people can participate? I'm sure he's definitely thinking of a copyright idea right now. The question, a lot of best wishes.
But it's been done,
like
so there's no copyright. The copyright lies with Jeff.
He'll bring in a little more that, since he's so passionate about the idea. But a lot of best wishes for Anju and Anand from our, from your fans. So I just wanted to convey that to both of you as well. And I think, like I said, they all have been complaining that Rajiv ji has all the questions in his kitty, and he keeps asking everything to the panelists, and they don't have nothing more to ask them. So I'll just hand it over to you, Rajiv, once again.
I don't know whether I should take that sportingly or not, but anyway, I will always do my best. And before we say thank you, I think there is one particular question which is crossing my mind, and that needs a little discussion. It's about education. How do we inculcate a holistic sporting culture in our country? Will it be through the education system, with now a lot of talk about sports being part of the academic curriculum? Or what are the parts that the government and other stakeholders are to play here in easing this process? I think I will first start with Vishal sir. Vishal sir?
Rajiv, whoever was saying that you are the ones who are asking all the questions, they must be cursing you again. A very important issue, I mean, every time our country doesn't do well at international sporting events, we're all depressed. But as Mr. Sumariwala was saying, if you ask all the parents what they want their children to become, there'll be very few who say they want them to become sports persons. Everybody wants to become an engineer or doctor or something. So I think there lies the crux of the problem. But over the last many years, I've personally seen a lot of improvement on that. After the Hockey World Cup, I remember hockey coaching being started in many schools, including some private schools, which are very football and tennis oriented, so to say. On the curriculum side, I think, this has to start right from the very beginning. One is not talking about giving specific training or coaching on specific disciplines, but, general fitness, making kids play right from the very beginning, telling them about how their body works, what is, healthy food, what is healthy lifestyle. These are elements which are missing, and therefore there's been talk of introducing sports as not an extracurricular activity, but a part of the curriculum. So there are various agencies which are working on designing this curriculum and how it's going to be. We're also working with ELMS and with Tata Trust. You're aware of that. You're a part of that as well. On designing a curriculum, reorienting our physical education teachers on physical training, sports coaching, etc. So I think it will have to be made a compulsory part of the curriculum. And the important issue would be appropriate designing of the curriculum so that it kind of doesn't go haywire.
So there was some sort of thought in terms of sports schools and stuff like that, which could be focusing on education as well as sports in general. Would you have some thoughts on that, sir?
So we are looking at starting 3 sports schools, in 3 different divisions of the state. It's still work in progress, but yeah, we're taking feedback from different people about how it could work out, but not yet finalized.
Okay, wonderful, super. So as we all know that Odisha takes the lead, here we know from Vishal sir that there is something in the pipeline. Before I come to Adil sir, I think let me get Anand, because he has some good experience in the kind of work he's done. Anand, any thoughts on this? On the education side of it?
Sir, yes, sir. So my view is we should start curriculum activities like in sports. Sir. Sports always be first in school, because if you're not fit, then you can't, basically you can't do study also. So fitness is most important part. Means you should give more importance for sports activities and all. And that start age of 10, you can start that. Because in Europe and all these things, that countries are why they are giving more important sports from age of 8, age of 10, because athletics is a track and field is a mother of the sport. And if anybody can take part in athletics in future, if they want to go for the football, they want to go for any other game, they will fit before. That's why in Europe, America, everywhere, a lot of kids, their curriculum activities, their sports, basically they are focused only in track and field first, because it's a fitness game. Basically, you know how to run, you know how to do other exercise, then you can't go and play other games. So basically, you should more focus on track and field from small age. And then after, when they grow, either they go for different game, they can go easily. But basically, fitness means track and field. So we should promote more in our schools or colleges track and field. And that is my main idea. If you promote more track and field in college and school, definitely you will get more sportsmen in more sporting culture in country. You know that in India, if you go to, and you just go to and search, there are more every year 1,600 marathons happening in India. It's a very big number. I think more than 5 to 6 crore people are running marathons in India every year. That's what a fitness right now craze is there in India. So
James, so great. James, you have a perspective to that, because you're also into, this area in a big way with your HPC and in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vishal sir touched on a lot of the points, and we've obviously had discussions with Vishal and his team on this as well. I think from our perspective, it's about having relevant level coaches at the specific level. So, for example, in the skill-hungry years, so sort of 8 to 12 years of age, we should be focusing on key things like movement, quality, catch, throw, all the kind of key skills that will hold these kids in good stead when they get older and they become more specialized in the sport. So I think it's about the appropriate age coaching that goes on throughout the sort of performance pathway. And it's creating a sort of, if you like, a movement vocabulary within kids' education when they're a bit younger. So if they do have a a predisposition to be extremely high level in a certain sport, then they have the foundations of being developed at an early age. Because if they learn badly, it's very hard to undo that at a later stage. You know, if they learn bad technique, bad form, it's very hard to undo that, you know, when they get, you know, into more specialized environment. I'd actively encourage sport being part of the curriculum. I think, like Jeff talked about cradle to grave, and I completely buy into that as a concept.
Right. Very critical. And Adil sir, your view as AFI on this?
I don't know about AFI. I'm going to give you my view.
Oh, wonderful.
See, I think one needs to understand that when somebody finishes their career, what are they going to do? They need a job. And how do you get a job if you're not qualified or you don't have education? So education is an integral part of sport, and sport is an integral part of education. The new education policy is good in a lot of ways, but I'm a little disappointed that it doesn't specifically mention sport. And I think that is where the problem is. Secondly, I think every child today we want children to come into camps and spend months in camps. How are they going to be educated? So unless we can find a methodology of their education being continued, no kid is going to come. So we can keep talking about education. Kerala had sports schools where PT Usha and others came out of. I don't know if even Anju was part of that scheme, but that is over. And then you see Kerala standards started going down at one time because each of these sports schools used to fight with each other. So you need a structural change if you really want to get these kids. And I'm doing one more new thing that I've started doing is I've spoken to the government, I've spoken to the sports minister. I'm getting an upskilling program for Olympians, for international athletes who've missed vocation, so that we're going to do lots of things from short courses in skilling them into different things, into coaching, physio, etc., to over a period of 2 years, getting them a bachelor's degree in sports management or subjects of their choice, so that they have a degree and they can get a job and they can be gainfully employed. That's my next project, and that is why today I'm sitting in Ahmedabad. That's where I'm setting it up. And that's my next project is education. And the first thing I'm doing is sports education. And for Olympians and athletes, ex-athletes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so well put. I think, Jeff, I had intentionally come to you last, not because there is not much of an issue there in the Western world, but how do you see this as in comparison, not really making literal comparison with India, but in terms of developing countries to develop countries, in terms of the education part as their curriculum in schools or the encouragement which they get as an athlete?
Rajiv, I was brought up in a system where the mantra was, if you've got a healthy body, you're going to have a healthy mind. And how do you get a healthy body? Well, that's through exercise, and it's an engagement in some form of exercise, not necessarily athletics or swimming or tennis, but just getting you moving. And I talked about that before, that part of the core of our strategic thinking moving forward is to try and get as many people moving as we possibly can, because it's not just, our sport's not just about the elite level, it's about everybody. And, you know, as James says, I talk about cradle to grave. Adil's been a little bit shy here because he actually heads up the work stream in our development commission at World Athletics, which is developing the new kids athletics program. And he briefly touched on it in an earlier intervention to say it was about movement and it's about developing those things. It's not been specific to any particular athletic discipline, but it's about getting people stronger, faster, with more endurance, etc. So it's providing those basic building steps or blocks to turn you into something more later on down the track. And this kids athletics program, look, I was brought up in a school system where we had sport as part of the curriculum. And I think that that is probably much of the success of Australia and New Zealand systems, is that they had sport in place and every kid that went to school participated in some form or fashion. But there were always kids at school who couldn't run fast or couldn't jump or couldn't throw, and they felt a bit left out. The design that Adil and his work stream are working on at World Athletics is to make sure that all of those kids can play a meaningful role in that. So it gives everybody an opportunity. It's not just the best kids in the class that are going to go on. It's giving everybody an opportunity. And the idea is now to launch this globally and develop the partnerships with governments and other partners to take this global, to get it into the school systems, convince governments of the benefits of it so that they do consider putting either kids athletics or some form of activity program into the curriculum. It's been proven left, right and centre that it works. It's just a matter of embracing it and you know, in some cases where it hasn't been done is taking up the challenge and actually biting the bullet and saying, look, we'll give this a go and let's see how it works. I guarantee that you're going to have good results. And the whole idea behind this is that your mums and dads can be coached in the delivery of the program. You don't have to have specific highly qualified coaches to do it. All your school teachers can easily engage in delivering it in the school program, and then it moves on to the next stage. So there are development pathways as part of this that are built into it. But Adil might want to expand on that a little bit because it's his baby as part of the Development Commission. I might be the chair, but this is his baby.
Well, he's always been modest. We all know that.
No. So why I didn't talk too much about it, because it's work in progress, and I really don't know what shape it will take. I have sent in long notes to the group, etc. But yes, I think, and the most important thing is, one, you introduce the child to the sport. But more important than that is that we show them a pathway. We show them a pathway from kids athletics right up to elite. And that's the most important thing. Because today we are not able to show a pathway. And if we can show a proper pathway, we will have far more people engaged. The other thing on education, and again, that's part of one of the works you, of course, I'm not the chair of that. I'm not sure if Jeff is the chair of that, but e-learning, coaches education, officials education, these are all streams where it is some form of education. It may not be a degree education, but it's some form of education, and coaches can make a living out of it. They'll get a certification at the end of the day, and stuff like that. So we are working, and that's one of the reasons I didn't get into it, because we haven't put a stamp on it. But Jeff is the chair of the Development Commission, and he's the boss out there. So if he says so, it's okay. But thank you, Jeff.
So we are.
Anju, I would like to make a point here. So what's also happening when we talk of education is that whether it's a sports hostel or a sports school or a sports academy, you will have 4 or 5% of the people who will kind of make it to the elite levels.
Correct.
But there are 95% who can't. So what you do with them is again very important. And in Odisha, we've tied up with a Skills Development Authority. Post 18 years of age, when they leave the sports hostel or the sports academy, we are trying to see that they get into some kind of a skill development program, some kind of a vocational education program, so that they can look forward to a career.
Correct.
Absolutely. I think that's also very important from the point of financial uncertainties that sports people face.
Correct.
I just want one small, I'll tell you how bad it is. When I got into IIT, and I said, no, I don't want to do IIT. I want to do sport, because I can do IIT at any time later if I want to, and education can happen for these few years. And I'll tell you a sentence which I'll never forget. My parents said, "You will beg on the streets. You will beg on the streets of India if you do sport and don't do engineering." And I did everything to prove them wrong. So, but that's the mindset.
Correct.
So I'm saying this is the mindset of a parent, and that was my own parent.
Correct.
And I was literally thrown out of the house. I said, if you want to do sport, you have to leave home. And that's exactly how I got a job in Tata's. So because Tata's was giving me accommodation. But I'm just trying to explain the mindset of an Indian parent.
Sir, by saying this, you are relating to n number of people, even as on date. That is the thing. But having said that and having a complete insight on this education and the curriculum part, when we talk about athlete, we talk about the 360-degree development of the athlete, because that's what is going to help him or her, whether it's the status or whatever. But I think the point which I am also trying to make is these are the times when the technology is embracing you in the way you cannot imagine. If you are not hands-on, if you are not with the pace, as an athlete, you're going to be lagging behind. This is something which I have a belief, and I feel this is something also needs to be done. And this comes with some part of education, obviously going towards many other facets of it. And I am so pleased that I raised this question and I got such a diverse, viewpoint on that. As I said, I don't want to be the curse for the others who are now listening and saying, I'm only asking more questions. I think we are coming to the end of this lovely, lovely webinar. And what a insightful discussion we had. All I can say is I wanted to thank you, each one of you with folded hands, to be part of this lovely webinar and, share your experiences and thoughts. And if we have missed anything, I would not leave you. Be rest assured, I would be sending you offline messages to ask you. So thank you very much once again from my side before I hand it over to Diksha to do the honors. Diksha?
Yeah, I always tell you the same thing, Rajiv ji. You say everything and you tell me to end it. But I think we've already, it's been wonderful to hear a world of perspective about the future of athletics, from the grand plans of the World Athletic Body from Mr. Jeff Gardner, to the Indian body from Mr. Adil Sumariwala, to the experiences shared by Mr. Vishal Dev about Odisha's emergence as a nerve center of sports in India, the personal journey of Anju and Anand and how they are giving it back to the society, the role of HPCs from James Sillier in shaping young talents. And of course, the last bit I think was very, very insightful on sports and education. Very action-packed, informative and insightful discussion that we have had today. And I would just say what Rajiv ji also said with folded hands. Thank you to all our panelists for being a part of this webinar, and to the audience as well, who have been supporting us every time. These webinars have been a success only because you guys have been supporting us, coming up with your questions, being a part of it on different social media platforms. So a big, big thank you to all of them who are joining us every time. So I hand it over to you, Rajiv ji, once again, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you once and all, everybody. Thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing this wonderful time for us and for all the audience and listener friends. Thank you. Good night.
Raju ji, thank you, Odisha government and Tata Steel, to give this opportunity.